I know that we're still in the millennium. We're still, you know what he's going to be doing? If you don't go up to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles, you don't get no rain. So the Feast of Tabernacles is still applicable in some ways. I'm not, I can't explain it. I know that when they rebuild the temple, there's going to be some types of sacrifices going on.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know particularly why.
Honestly, I read, and I believe it's in Isaiah that talks about that, the sacrifices that continue. But honestly, I think we're gonna be eating some food, like, because even with some of the sacrifices that they did, he told them to eat the meat and the fat with certain sacrifices. Certain ones was just for him, but certain ones they were eating what they were like sacrificing as well. They just had to offer it first. So clearly they weren't just burning all the food they came across and they were starving, eating manna only. But at one point they were actually eating what they were sacrificing. So
didn't he call Lewis? Didn't he call some of the people in the wilderness fat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the wilderness. A feast, man. It's gonna be a feast up there. I doubt we only gonna have bread. Might have some other stuff that we ain't ever seen before.
I can guarantee you we're gonna have some stuff we ain't never seen before.
That's right.
I believe that, but shoot, we might.
I'm telling you, we're gonna have some stuff we ain't never tasted before.
Oh yeah. I for sure believe that, and God has the creativity. He could design a different plate for each person if he really want to.
Right.
Yeah. There's going to be when you die and your eyes you can see the next world. You're going to see creatures that are probably going to blow your mind. That you just like.
I wish my mom spoke English a little bit better. If you had a conversation with her, you would be like because my mom came from Haiti, and I already kind of explained Haiti is very deep in voodoo. So the spiritual thing, full blood. Okay. The spiritual realm, how it's seen in America, is very different from Haiti. Like some people don't think they don't think it's like real for some reason. But the thing is, things get blended over there to the point where it's like there's creatures that we're taught is only in movies and myths that walk around over there. And the thing is, so actually kind of one of the testimonies she told me about when she first came to faith, she would see these things come, and she said she saw an angel coming, like it just showed up and those things like ran. And I feel like people don't believe that part of the Bible still exists. Like, and that's why it's so easy. Like that's why I literally believe the Bible. I understand there's certain parts that are like poetic, but the Bible makes it clear when something's not literal. I feel like if it explains, even if it's a symbol, it explains it right after like Daniel, all the stuff in Revelation. But what about the stuff without the explanation?
Right.
Like that's why in Job, that's how I see everything.
Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you, Father, for your grace and your mercy. We thank you, Father, for the presence of your Holy Spirit. And we ask, Father, that you guide us through this study, through this lesson. Provoke our heart, provoke our hearing, Lord Jesus. Make room for yourself in our heart, Lord God. And again, bless the speaker and the hearer tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
So what I want to do tonight, I'm going to let you help y'all understand a little bit of how symbolic language works. And you're going to begin to see like little pieces of the puzzle come together. And then as you see this piece and this piece and this piece come together, then you're going to have a deeper truth. So I want to review for a second. We talked about this last week. I believe that the first seal brings in the lion, who I believe is the kingdom over there right now in Jerusalem. And one of their attributes is they use a lying tongue to go forth and to conquer. I believe that's where we're at, and we're waiting on the ram or the bear, the second seal. And that's when peace will be taken from the earth. I believe that's when the destruction of Jerusalem happens. I believe that's when the birth pains begin. Now, Now think about, we know who the woman and the man-child is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The woman is Jerusalem, earthly Jerusalem. We learned that.
Right.
And the man-child is the 144,000, right?
Yes.
And so when Jerusalem, earthly Jerusalem, which is the woman that's carrying the child, is destroyed, I believe she goes into birth pangs. And that will start the labor pains. And I also believe that there's 4 months to harvest from this time. Now, when they destroy Jerusalem, and we talked about this, I believe this is talking about America, the leopard, the he-goat. We can see some of the attributes. They control food. Nebuchadnezzar, after thee shall arise another, the second kingdom, inferior to thee, and another third kingdom. So this is talking about the third kingdom, the third seal. And look what it says. He shall bear rule over what?
All the earth.
All the earth. So I believe this third kingdom is going to bear rule over all the earth. And I'll give you some more attributes. He's like a leopard. And when he breaks up, or when he's divided, I believe he's going to be divided into 4 different kings, and dominions given to it, to the leopard over the world. He's going to bear rule over all the world. Now here's another, this is another picture of the third kingdom. The he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 heads, or
4 notable
ones, right? One more about the Grecian Empire, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now, when he says the first king, I believe, as it applies to America, whatever king it is that destroys the ram, media, or Iran, this is the first king. And then when he's broken, when he falls, there you see it again. 4 stood up, right? 4 notable ones, 4 heads, over and over again. And 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, this nation right here, but not in his power, talking about not in the first king's power.
Right.
So then we come to the 4th seal, which I believe is the Antichrist kingdom. This 4th seal is the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. He refers to this as the pale horse. And I want you to notice something, because y'all remember what we talked about last week. The 5th seal, when the 5th seal is open, remember he tells those people under the altar that, yes, the 4th kingdom is in power, and he gave them robes and told them to be patient for a little bit longer, right? For a short season. But I want you to notice when the 4th kingdom comes into power, notice that the 6th seal hasn't happened yet. So Israel has not went to the land yet, have they?
No.
Because this is the 4th seal, and Israel doesn't go to the land till the 6th seal.
Right.
Which means if the 6th seal, if the 4th seal's here, that means the 7 years hasn't started. So Israel hasn't went to the land, the 7 years hasn't started, but yet, guess what? The 4th kingdom is in power. But notice something about them. Look what he says here. He says, and his name that sat on him was death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the whole world, right?
4th part, 25%.
4th part. So this kingdom isn't come to what we would call a point where it's ruling with a rod of iron yet.
No.
And that's kind of weird, because when you look at the Grecian Empire, right? Look what it says. He bears rule over what?
All the earth.
And yet when you get to the 4th kingdom, it says what?
Only over a quarter of it.
So to me, what that's telling me is there's going to be some division.
Mm-hmm.
When this 4th kingdom comes into power, there's going to be some people out there that's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
So and look what he says down here. The 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron. And I think these toes here represent the 10 toes of the 10 kings that are going to be in the 4th kingdom. But notice what it says about this 4th kingdom. The kingdom shall be what?
Divided.
And I think that's one of the reasons you see this at first, right? It's going to be divided. He says that, just as just as iron is mixed with what?
With clay.
With clay, because you're not supposed to mix iron with clay, right?
Not at all.
And therefore, the fourth kingdom will be partly strong and partly broken. And he goes on, he says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with merry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not supposed to be mixed with clay. So I think there's going to be a problem when this kingdom first rises up, because they do not have, I'm going to show it one more time, the third kingdom bears rule over all the earth. I think that's America. But for some reason, when this kingdom comes into power, they only have a fourth part. Now, I do think that changes. Now, notice this fourth kingdom. The fourth beast, he was dreadful and terrible, right? And remember, he has what?
10 horns.
10 horns. Again, that I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, his nails of brass, which did devour, break in pieces, and stamp the residue with his feet, and of the 10 horns that were in his head. So this fourth kingdom is going to have 10 horns, right, or 10 toes. Now, and so this right here, we're going to see this fourth kingdom come up, and we're going to look at him. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Right? And the beast, which I saw, was likened to, we talked about this last week, a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And I want you to look. The dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. So what we're going to do tonight is a little bit different. We're going to break down all this symbolic stuff, okay? So that everybody understands. Now watch this, okay? So we learned a little bit of this last week. The beast that rises up out of the sea, whether it's in Daniel 7 or whether it's in Revelation 13, they're going to represent the kingdom and the king. So when you see the word beast, what I'm going to show you is that can be the king or the kingdom, and it's really going to be based upon context, okay? So look at the definition of kingdom. 2 words, king and dom, which means, guess what? Jurisdiction. So the territory or country subject to a king, and undivided territory under the dominion of a king, the inhabitants or population subject to a king. So you're not a kingdom unless you have a what?
A king.
And you can't be a king if you don't have a kingdom. What are you ruling over? You're not a king unless you have what? And what I would say, and people say, well, Israel didn't have a king. They were asking, yeah, they did have a king.
They did.
God was their king, right? And so what I would tell you is we have a king. We are subjects, right, to a king, and that's who we're supposed to be obedient to.
Right.
Now, so let me show you this real quick. Just show you that beast can be the kingdom or the king. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. He says, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea. So we've got a symbol here, and we got symbols here.
Right.
So we want to know what these symbols represent. Now look what he says. These great beasts, which are 4, are what?
4 kings.
Kings. So the beast are what? Kings. Okay. What he says here. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the
4th kingdom.
or kingdom. So the beast is the beast the king or is the beast the kingdom?
Yes.
Yes. It's context, isn't it?
Exactly.
Sometimes it can just be both of them. Sometimes he's speaking particularly about the king, or sometimes he's speaking particularly about the kingdom. But the beast can represent the king or the kingdom.
Right.
Now, as far as coming up from the sea, look what it says, because this what it says. He says he saw the four beasts came up from what?
The sea.
The sea. Well, look what it says down here. These are four kings which shall arise out of the sea, right?
Out of the earth.
Out of the earth. And so the beast can be kingdoms, the beast can be kings, and the sea represents the earth. And that's how you interpret prophecy. If he gives you a symbol, he's going to tell you the literal meaning of the symbol.
Right.
So let's move on and look at the dragon. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. So, first of all, who's the dragon? Well, we've already learned this. The great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan.
Yep.
So we don't have to sit here and say, I think the red dragon is this or that. We know who the red dragon is. Now, look at the beast. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up. Now, we already know this can be a king or a kingdom based upon the what? Context, right?
Right.
And last week, we were talking about it as being a kingdom. Now, watch this. I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his crowns 10 horns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now look what it says. The dragon gave who?
Him. The beast. The king.
His.
Yep.
Is, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he's talking about, is he talking about the kingdom there, or is he talking about the king?
The king.
Did he give the kingdom the power, or did he give the king the power?
The king.
The king. So you can see that so you can see where the word beast can be the king or the kingdom, right?
Right.
So okay, so here's what we know. We know that the dragon is Satan, and we know that the beast here is the Antichrist.
Right.
Now what I want to do is I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something here. I want you to look at what the dragon looks like. He's got 7 heads.
Yep.
10 horns.
Yep.
And he's got crowns. Now you got to pay attention where his crowns are.
Mm-hmm.
7 crowns upon his what?
Head.
Okay, so you got 7 heads, 10 horns, and the crowns are on the heads. So let's go down here and look. So the dragon has 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns on his head, no crowns on his horns.
Right.
Now let's look at the beast. I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns,
yep,
and upon his horns,
yep,
10 what?
Crown.
10 crowns. Okay. So the beast has 7 heads, 10 horns, no crowns on his head, 10 crowns on his horns.
Yep.
So I want to ask you a question, because these are all symbols, okay? But when you look at the appearance, at the dragon and the beast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without crowns, what do you notice about them?
They all have 7 heads, or they both have 7 heads. 10 horns. And
so they look identical, don't they?
They do.
Because both of them are described with 7 heads,
yep,
and 10 horns.
And 10 horns.
Now, Look, remember what Jesus, who was Jesus? He was the son of what? God.
Right.
Right? And now look what he says here. He says, Jesus saith unto him, have I been so long time with you, and yet thou hast not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me, he that hath seen the Son, have what?
Seen the Father.
So when you look at, if Christ, Jesus Christ was standing in front of you, and you look at him, the Son, you've seen who?
The Father.
Because him and his Father were what?
Are
They're
one.
one. I'm in my Father, and my Father's in me, right? I'm going to tell you that when the devil is cast down, the dragon, and he enters into the beast, right?
Right.
Well, I'll let you. I'll read it to you. And they worshipped the dragon. There's the devil, which gave power to who?
The beast.
But they didn't just worship the dragon.
No, they did not.
They worshipped who?
The beast as well.
In other words, to worship the dragon and to worship the beast, to worship one is to worship the other.
Right.
Now that's interesting because in Thessalonians he says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin," talking about the Antichrist, "be revealed." Now what's he calling?
The son of perdition.
So the beast is the son of perdition.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so look what Jesus says. You are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there's no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he's a liar and the father of it. So the dragon, the devil, is the father of what?
Father of lies.
So when the father of lies, the dragon, is cast down and enters into, now think about it. I believe that, this is what I believe. I believe that Judas was a shadow or a picture of the Antichrist. And do you know what happened to Judas? You know what the devil did right before Judas betrayed the Lord?
He inhabited him.
He entered into him.
Yes, he did.
And so I believe what will happen is when he is cast down, the father, the devil, will enter into the beast, and the beast could literally say, the son of perdition could literally say, when you've seen me, you've seen who?
The Father.
You've seen the Father.
Yeah.
You will have just like you have, just like God got to walk around in the flesh, right? Because it says about Jesus in, I think, Colossians 2:9, in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily.
Right.
So God was in his body, right? Well, guess what? Satan will have a body. And so when you've seen one, that's why right up here, when you look at one, guess what? The other one is what?
Yeah, identical.
They're identical. If you're living in the last days, the last 3.5 years, and you get to meet the Antichrist, you will literally be standing in front of Satan.
Yeah.
Now, let me move on because I want to show you some things here. So here's the beast. 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns on his what? Or 10 horns on his 10 crowns on his horns.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to look first at the heads, because these are all, if they're symbols, he's going to tell you, right?
Right.
Okay, he's going to tell you the literal interpretation. Now look what he says about these 7 heads. Here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads, excuse me, right here. The 7 heads are 7 what?
Mountains.
On which
The woman.
who's the woman? We learned that last week.
Jerusalem.
It's Jerusalem, right? So these 7 heads, these 7 heads right here, represent the 7 mountains on which Jerusalem sits. That's not a private interpretation.
Right.
Okay, so the 7 heads of the beast is equal to the 7 mountains of Jerusalem. So let's look at because he's got 10 horns, right? Let's find out what these 10 horns are on the beast. The 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 what?
Kings.
And that's going to give us another help with our interpretation, because he's telling you that these 10 horns are 10 kings, and then when you look over here, guess what? It's on the horns.
Crowns.
So when you see crowns, you know that they represent what?
Or in this
Right
case,
here.
kings. Yeah.
In this case, they represent kings, right?
Right.
So the crowns on the horns are going to represent that the horns are kings. Now watch this. The 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but these 10 kings receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast or the Antichrist.
Yeah.
These 10 kings have one mind, and these 10 kings shall give their power and strength unto
The beast.
the beast. Excuse me. These 10 kings, look what else they do. These 10 kings shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them.
Yeah.
So the 7 heads are the 7 mountains.
Right.
The 10 horns are the 10 kings.
Right.
And we know that they're 10 kings because they have crowns on them.
Right.
It says the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. So he's very specific, right?
Yep.
Not the 10 horns on the dragon, but the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. These shall hate the whore. Who's the whore?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. And shall make her, Jerusalem, desolate and naked, and shall eat her, Jerusalem, flesh. And guess what else these 10 kings are going to do?
Burn her with fire.
Burn Jerusalem with fire.
Yep.
Because God hath put in their hearts, these 10 kings, to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom. So these 10 kings who have, because they're 10 kings, so they all have kingdoms, right? God's going to put it in their hearts to give their kingdom unto the beast.
Right.
All right. And then when we go over to Daniel, we see the same kingdom coming up, and it has 10 horns right here, and the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up. So the fourth kingdom, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of, guess what? This kingdom. So Daniel's going to tell you the same thing that Revelation says. The 10 horns out of this kingdom are what?
10 kings.
10 kings that shall rise. So we don't have to guess. When it comes right here, we don't have to guess. That is 7 mountains.
Yep.
That is 10 kings that come from this kingdom, right? They don't have kingdoms yet, but they're going to receive kingdoms 1 hour with the beast, right?
Yep.
And we know that is the time right here before they become kings, because he says the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall what?
Arise.
That shall arise. So the kingdom comes up, these 10 kings arise, they give their power and their strength unto the Antichrist. So we understand all the symbolism here. All right, so any questions? All right, everybody understands. We'll move on.
Yep.
So we're gonna look at the dragon now. 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns on his heads. So I want you to notice something. 7 heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the crowns?
On the heads.
So what do you think that would represent?
The heads?
Well, if they have crowns on them, what do the heads represent? Because up here, the crowns were on the what?
I said kings.
They represent, that's exactly what they represent. The 7 heads, because they have crowns on them, are going to represent 7 kings.
Right.
So let's watch this. there are, guess what? 7 kings.
Yes, indeed.
5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now, we're going to come back to these 2 verses because I'm going to show you some stuff about it. But look what he says. He says, and the beast, right? But now we're talking about the dragon right now. This 7 kings is this interpretation right here.
Right.
The beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th. Now look what it says about the beast.
Is
of the what?
The 7.
So the Antichrist, the beast,
Is one
those 7 heads, he's one of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all see that?
Yep.
I see it.
Okay. So we know the 7 heads are 7 kings, and one of those heads on Satan is the Antichrist.
Is the Antichrist.
And the head represents a king. It doesn't represent a literal physical head. It represents a king, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
So watch this. And I saw one of what?
His heads.
His head was
Right here. One of his heads.
Yep.
As it were.
Wounded to death.
And his deadly wound was healed.
Yep.
So we already know the beast is one of the what? 7. And that's the one that is wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And you know why I know that's the one? And all the world wondered after
the beast,
which is one of the 7.
Yep.
And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? So this right here, one of these 7 heads or 7 kings is the Antichrist. And he's going to be wounded to death, and his deadly wound is going to be healed. Now, he says, I want you to show this. He says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. So that's who we're talking about, the first beast, right?
Yep.
The Antichrist. And causeth the earth and them which dwell thereon to worship that beast, the Antichrist, whose deadly wound was what?
Healed.
So we know that on the devil there are 7 kings.
Yep.
And we know one of those is the beast. And we know that beast is going to get a what? He's going to be wounded to death. And we know also that his deadly wound is going to be what?
Healed.
Now, let's go back to this verse, these 2 verses. There are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and John says, and 1 is, right?
Is, yeah.
So in John's eyes, these have fallen, and this king right here is. Okay?
Yep.
So the other is. 1 is, and the other is not yet what?
Come.
Talking about the 7th one, right? Because there's only what?
7 of them.
There's only 7. So look what he says. The other is not yet come. Talking about, because 5 are fallen, there's 5, there's 6. Here comes 7. And when the 7th one cometh, guess what?
They'll continue only a short space.
Only a short space. Now look what he says. Because we know that one of the 7 is what?
Is the beast.
It's the 8.
One of these 7 is the beast, right?
Yep.
And we know that he's deadly wound. He's going to have a deadly wound, right?
Yep.
So probably this one, because look what it says. And the beast that was the 7th one, right? Because when he comes, he'll be the 7th one. The beast that was and is not. Why is he is not?
Because he is not there yet.
He said, no, he had a deadly. No, he was. He was there.
Okay, so this is after.
And now he is not.
Okay.
Because he's got a deadly wound.
Gotcha.
Real quick question about the deadly wound thing, because I've heard two different theories. One of them was that people believe the deadly wound, they think it's the revival of the Rome. I don't believe that, but do you think it'll be something like an actual wound?
Well, I say that if there's not a symbol, you take it literal.
Because
how
the
I see
kings
it.
are literal kings, or literal rulers.
It's a literal king on Satan, and he says right here. Let me take you back up here.
Wounded to death.
I saw one of his. Remember, you have to interweave literal and symbolic, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because even the symbolic is literal. You just got to find out what the symbol represents. And we already know that the head is what?
The king.
Is a king.
King.
So I saw one of the kings, these 7 kings, as it were, wounded to death, and the king. See, it doesn't say. See, remember, it can be a king or a kingdom.
Right.
But here, he very clearly tells you that, well, what it says right here, there are 7 what?
Kings.
Kings, not kingdoms. There are 7 kings.
Mm-hmm.
5 are fallen, and 1 is, the other is not. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was alive and is not alive. Now, he's going to say something weird. Because there's only what?
7.
It says the one that was and is not, and yet now he's calling him the what?
The 8th.
The 8th king. Why do you think he would call him he's of the 7?
Because he'll get power again.
And I think because it's not just that he's going to get power again. I believe, and we'll talk about this maybe in a week or two, I believe that when he is resurrected from the dead, he's possessed by Satan.
Oh yeah.
So when you see up here, I'll take you back up here. When you see this right here, right? When you've seen the Son, you've seen the Father.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that takes place at the resurrection. I don't believe that when that kingdom first comes in power, that when we go back up here and we look at the 4th kingdom, right here, he's only got power over the 4th part of the earth.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's once Satan is cast down and enters into the Antichrist. That's not.
You read it earlier.
It's the whole thing.
It's the whole earth. You read it earlier in Daniel. He has power over the whole earth.
So one thing about the part when you're reading about the deadly wound, you go back to that part.
Okay.
Do you think it'll be like a fake death because it says as if it were?
Well, the problem is he says whose deadly wound was healed. When he says
as
here,
it were,
one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. No, I literally think he's going to die. And I probably could, I guess I can go ahead and talk about it tonight a little bit. Well, I will right here, okay? Here's what I think happens. I think he's killed after the 4th kingdom's already in power, right? And I think there's going to be a division. I think there's going to be problems in his kingdom, right? It's going to be partly strong and partly divided. Yeah. And so I think someone's going to kill him. Now, I shouldn't say that. I think he's going to die. Okay. And so what I think is going to happen is when the devil is cast down, I think that's at the 5th trump in the middle, right? With 3.5 years left, he's cast down. And what I think is he's given a key to the bottomless pit, right? And he unlocks the bottomless pit. Now, we know there's certain things that come out, like there's locusts with scorpion stings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nothing can come out of the bottomless pit until it's what? Unlocked. And it's not unlocked until the 5th trumpet. Now look what he says. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast, that what?
Send it out of the bottomless pit.
Bottomless pit. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, because he's the son of perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And I think that's why it calls him the eighth king, is because it's not just the beast anymore.
Yes, like a power up.
The beast and the beast and the dragon, right?
I also noticed it's a knockoff of Jesus. He was, is, and is to come, and he was, is not, yet is.
Yeah. You see that all throughout Scripture, where the one's the son of God, one's the son of perdition, one's the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and one's a roaring lion going about seeing who can devour.
Without any teeth.
Yeah. So you see that a lot. So anyway, so I just wanted y'all to get a basic understanding of the dragon and the beast and what these symbols here represent. Because I don't think anything that we just went through is a private interpretation.
Not at all.
Because he told us right here, the 7 heads are 7 mountains, the 10 horns, and we see crowns on them, are the 10 kings, which give their power and strength unto the beast, right?
Right.
And then he tells us right here that the 7 heads on Satan, there are 7 what? There's 7 kings.
There's 7 kings.
All right. So that's the entire, and we know that when you look at one, it's like looking at the other one.
Right.
They're identical in appearance. All right. So before we move on, because we're going to talk about one more, and that's the false prophet. Anybody have any more questions or comments about the dragon or the beast or?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So now this is important, because modern Eurocentric Christianity tries to put everything on the Antichrist. Okay. Everything's Antichrist. The false prophet, matter of fact, as far as they're concerned, pretty much these verses right here in Revelation 13 is about the only time the Bible talks about the false prophet. But I'm going to tell you that it's just not true. So let's look. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw the beast. So this is the Antichrist, right? And he rises up out of the sea, and he's got 7 heads and 10 horns. Now this is his kingdom, or the king of the Antichrist coming up. And then when you get down to Revelation 13, you're going to see, I beheld what? Another beast. So this beast comes up before or after the first beast, the Antichrist? Comes up after the Antichrist, okay? And he says, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. We know who that is. And notice something about him. He exercises all the power of the first beast. Notice what it says. The first beast, which was when?
Before him.
So this one comes up first, and then this one comes up. And he calls of all the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast. So the order is important. And I'm going to show you why, because it's going to give us clues into showing you that some of the things, some of the interpretations that they're calling the Antichrist, especially in the book of Daniel, are actually talking about the false prophet. So let's look at it. 4 great beasts came up from the sea, right? We know who it is: the lion, the bear, the leopard, and then this one right here, the 4th beast. And so let's look at the 4th beast. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, the 4th beast, which is the 4th kingdom, or the Antichrist kingdom, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So we know this is the final kingdom, because these are the 10 kings, right? So person-wise, this is who? the Antichrist, right?
Yes.
And these are his 10 kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is his kingdom, so the king is here too, right?
Right.
Because we've already proved that sometimes these beasts here, I showed you in another place, that sometimes they're the king and sometimes they're the kingdom. So here's the Antichrist rising up, and here's the 10 kings. Okay. So Antichrist rises up, and then watch this. And I considered the horns. I considered those 10 kings, right? And behold, there came up among them, among who?
The 10.
The 10 kings, another little what?
Horn.
Can that be the Antichrist?
No.
No.
Because the Antichrist is already what?
The fourth beast.
Part of the horns.
Now I'm going to tell you what Eurocentric Christianity teaches. They teach that is the Antichrist. Now we've only read 2 verses, and we already figured out. Guess what? It's not the Antichrist. So let's look up. So out of these 10 kings that are in the kingdom of the beast, another little horn before whom there were 3 of the first horns, or 3 of these 10 kings right here, are plucked up. So whoever this little horn that comes up, and we already know in this kingdom that it's going to be what? Is it going to be united?
No.
No, there's going to be division in it, right? And so he's going to pluck up 3 of these kings, these 10 kings. And look what it says about this horn, this little horn. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking what?
Great things.
Great things.
So he comes up from among the 10 kings. He's a king, and he's coming up from these kings, and he's got eyes, and he has a mouth speaking great things. So let's go down and let's look at the interpretation. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever. Then would I know the truth of the 4th beast, so the Antichrist, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet, and of the 10 horns that were in his head. Whose?
The 4th beast.
This one. Yeah. And of
The other.
the other which came up, before whom 3 fell. So we know he's talking about that little horn, right?
Right.
And he even tells you, even of that horn that had what?
Eyes.
Eyes. And a mouth that spake very great things. So you know he's talking about the same one, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn, not the Antichrist, did what?
Made war with the saints.
See, in
fell
modern Eurocentric Christianity, everybody says, oh, Antichrist, Antichrist, Antichrist. And I'm not saying the Antichrist ain't involved. I'm saying they ignore the false prophet. So let's look, because the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon earth. Okay, yeah. The 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth. That was what right there, yeah. And shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom, right? The 4th kingdom, the Antichrist kingdom, the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall arise when?
After them.
So think about this. In Revelation, he says that that these kings, right, have not. They're going to receive. They haven't received their kingdom as yet with the beast, and they're going to rise And then they're going to give their power and their strength unto him.
Yeah.
So when the fourth beast rises at the fourth seal, guess what? The fourth kingdom is already in power. And then these 10 kings, they rise up and they give their power and strength unto him.
Yeah.
And then after they rise up, another shall what? Rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall, there it is again, he shall subdue 3 kings, and he, this little horn, shall speak great words against the Most High, and he shall what?
Wear out the saints.
What did it say up here? He made war with the what?
With the saints.
And prevailed against them. So the false prophet, you need to be worried about him, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to wear out the saints the most. And look what he's going to do. The false prophet is going to think to change times and laws.
Yep.
And they, the saints, shall be given into his hand for 3.5 years. Now, I don't know what kind of church y'all were raised. Everybody was raised in and everything, but I was always taught that was the Antichrist.
Yep.
And I'm getting ready to prove to you that it's the false prophet. And I'm getting ready to prove to you where he comes from. Because the Antichrist kingdom rises up, and then the 10 horns come up, and then after the 10 horns, the little horn comes. It all has its order, doesn't it?
Yep.
And we know, right? Go back up here for a second. We know right here, the beast rises first, right? And they acknowledge this is the false prophet. And another beast comes up after him, right? Yep. And he gets all the power of the first beast, which was what?
Before him.
All right. I haven't lost y'all yet. I haven't lost y'all yet, have I?
Oh no.
Okay.
They treat the false prophet like a backup dancer.
Exactly.
Yeah. And hey, that's all right, because we're gonna make sure everybody knows. So you remember in the beginning of Daniel 8, we talked about this last week. Daniel has another vision. He says, after the vision which I had before, talking about the 1 and 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he has this vision about these four kingdoms, and then here he's going to have another vision, and we talked about it last week. It's the ram and the he-goat, right? And so the ram, I believe, destroys Jerusalem, and then the he-goat is going to wax very great. He's going to come up against the ram, and he's going to destroy him. So when this he-goat, the third kingdom, is in power, and when he was strong, the first ruler of that third kingdom, the great horn that's ruling over the third kingdom, is going to be broken. And guess what? 4 are going to come up. Now, I believe this is America, but 4 is going to be 4 of them. And they're going to be 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of the heaven. Now, look what he says. And out of one of them, this is the third kingdom. Out of one of them came forth what?
A little horn.
What does he say up here?
A little horn.
It's the little horn. So even though he's going to rise up in the fourth kingdom, he's literally coming out of one of those 4 kingdoms that breaks up when the third kingdom goes in, breaks up into 4.
Yep.
So the little horn is going to come out of one of them, came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it, the little horn, waxed great even to the host of heaven. And the little horn cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea. Now look what this is not the Antichrist, it's the false prophet. And he magnified himself even to the prince of hosts, and by him, the false prophet, guess what?
The daily sacrifice was taken away.
Not by the beast, but by the what?
Little horn.
The little horn.
Oh, yeah.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and a host was given him against the daily sacrifice. So we have some what I call connections now. So we know now that this little horn is the false prophet, but we also know he's the one that does what?
Stops the sacrifice.
He's the one that's going to stop the daily sacrifice, because we know, and we also know this, that he's going to be very prominent in the last 3.5 years, because guess what? The saints of God, the saints that he's going to wear out, they shall be given into his hand for what? 3.5 years.
Yep.
So the last 3.5 years, this great horn is going to make war with the saints. He's going to wear out the saints. He's the one that's actually going to take the daily sacrifice away. Now, let's move on. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. The rough goat is the king of Grecia. And, well, this is not the same great horn. This is the first king. The great horn that is between his eyes is the first king of the 3rd kingdom. Now that being broken, 4 stood up. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, talking about the 3rd kingdom, right?
Yep.
Now look what he says. So the third kingdom is in power. It's been broken into 4. And in the latter time of their kingdom, these 4, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his what?
Not by his own power.
Okay, now let's look at that. Okay, because we know, because what does he say? What does he say about the first beast, the Antichrist? He says that the dragon gave him his what? His
power and his seat.
His power, right? So you would think, oh, well, that must be the Antichrist. No, because look what it says about the second beast. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon. And he exercises how much?
All the power.
Of who?
The first beast.
And where did the first beast get his power?
From the dragon.
From the dragon. So his power, this king, because it's going to be in the latter time of those 4 kingdoms that break up in the 3rd kingdom, it's going to be in their latter time. A king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall what?
Destroy the mighty and the holy people.
What does he say up here about him? Remember, he's going to
wear out the saints.
Wear out the saints. He's going to make war with the saints. And so really, what I want everybody to see is that we're all just like Antichrist. Everything's Antichrist. And the fact of the matter is, the false prophet is a dangerous man. Yeah. He says, his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also, he, the false prophet, the little horn, shall cause, I think that's speaking about witchcraft here. He shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he, the false prophet, the little horn, shall magnify himself in his heart. Now look what he's going to do.
By peace.
And by peace, he's going to destroy many people, right?
Yeah.
And he, the false prophet, shall also stand up against the prince of princes, and he shall be broken. And so I want to move on, because we've learned a lot about the false prophet here. He's going to try to kill all the saints. He takes away the daily sacrifice. He's called the little horn. He comes up after the beast. And what it says, I want you to see this. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 7 years, 1 week.
Yep.
And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to what?
To cease, to stop.
Who do you think that is?
Well, that's clearly the false prophet.
How about you? How about you, Reuben?
It's the false prophet.
That's the false prophet.
I do have a question though.
Go ahead and
Um,
ask.
it's because just based on the development of things, it is really a group not mentioned, but do you think Islam has anything to do with anything of these kingdoms? Because they do have an interesting prophecy that seems to match what they think will happen, but they like reverse the roles of Jesus and the Antichrist in their version. And they have like Jesus would be the Dajjal, and they believe that Jesus is gonna come, and I believe that their version of Jesus, who's Isa, is gonna be the false prophet, and they say he's gonna cause all the Muslims to go and kill Christians, and the rocks are gonna say there's a Christian hiding here.
Well, I'm gonna give you a couple of. I'm not going to give you scripture. I'm going to give you some of my thoughts. Okay. My first thoughts are okay. My first thought is this: in the original Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome, right? Which one of those 4 kingdoms was more of a friend to Israel than any of the other 4?
Babylon.
Really? You think so?
No, actually, Persia, because wasn't it Cyrus?
Yep.
Okay. So which one of those would you consider modern day Islam country?
Probably.
So which one showed more grace toward God's people of the 4?
The second
Persia.
kingdom.
Yeah, the second kingdom, the what we would call modern day Islam country, right?
Yeah.
Because they're the ones. Cyrus is the one, and Darius, they're the ones that will let them go back to the land.
Yeah. The Assyrians were very cruel.
Now, I think it's Eurocentric doctrine that has led us to believe that there is this vehement war between Muslims and Jews, and
Because they're not real Jews.
and I think it's been propagated only because the folks who occupy Israel, those aren't Jews.
Yeah, I actually heard
and it's the descendants of Ishmael who know that the folks who occupy that land today aren't the ones who are supposed to be there.
Yeah. So they make us feel bad for saying, like, they try to make you feel bad if you really believe that's not their land and it belongs to the other people. But at the same time, one thing that I did notice is I don't know if you've ever heard the interview when they first signed the declaration to make it an official country again. The Islamic leader said the Jews left a certain way and they came back white, and they were upset.
So I've never been able to. I've heard that quote so many times. It's one of the things that I've never been able to confirm.
I've got a video.
I'll send you the video. I found it.
Oh, okay, yeah, because they left black and they came back white is basically the quote.
Yeah.
And so, listen, I know that's controversial. What I just said was the second kingdom. the very one. Well, what would Satan?
The very ones the world says has got this hatred for each other. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, they've made. Let me. Reuben, I used to work at the University of South Carolina, and I drove a bus, and I used to drive foreign exchange students. Right, so I met people from all around the world. The nicest couple I ever met. I met his wife first, and she was from Iran, right? Yeah. And they would sit there and they tell me, it's like, when we came here, we were so scared, but everybody's so nice to us, and then I'd ask her questions about her country. Oh, that's not true. Oh, that's not true. That's not true, right?
Yeah, it's all the media.
It's all media.
Yeah, I don't believe the media. I'm just asking because of like the ones that they show on TV as radicals. Some of them do believe those things and they say it. So that's why I'm asking. I'm like,
and
I don't say radicals are actors though.
Yeah. Just like Zelensky.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say one other thing. I do believe that the devil's very, very deceitful, and I do believe there's going to be a lot of Islam that's going to be sucked into this final kingdom, because he says that that final beast is like unto a bear also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow, some way, they're going to get them to submit. It may be because the he-goat just destroyed the ram so much that they don't have no choice. The numbers are so, yeah. So anyway,
it might be the signs and wonders.
Yeah, he's gonna have all that power, and so let's I want to look at him. Let's look at him a little bit closer, and we won't. We're getting ready. We'll be closing here in a minute, and we can talk about it. So this in Daniel 9 is not the Antichrist. This is the false prophet.
Right.
He's, because we've already proven he's the one that causes the sacrifice to what? The little horn does that. Now check this out. And this chapter here, I tell you, if I can figure this chapter out, I think everything opens up a lot more deeper understanding and prophecy. So he says, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Now, I want you to notice what it said up here about him, right? So by peace, he's going to destroy many, right? So he's going to come in peaceably, I think, and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood, and I think he's talking about military here, and we could talk about that some other time, but he's going to, shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken. Now he's going to tell you who it is, okay? This vile person is. And with the arms of the flood, shall they be overflown from before him, this vile person, who comes in what? Peaceably, and obtains the kingdom by flatteries. And the arms of the flood shall be overflown from before him, and shall be broken. Yea, and he's going to tell you who it is. The prince of the what?
Of the covenant.
Of the covenant. Now watch what it says. And after the league made with him, so there's going to be something going on behind the scenes, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably upon the fattest places of the province, and shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I think he's a Hebrew. And I'll show you that in a second. Remember, he is the prince of the covenant. He's going to confirm the covenant, right? Now, watch this. He says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Now, I think this is, remember what he said about the 10 kings, right? What are the 10 kings going to do to the whore?
They're going to hate her, burn her with fire.
And they're going to burn her with fire, right? So I know a lot of people want, and maybe this is a partial fulfillment of something that's happened in the past, but I believe this is something that's going to happen. The people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a what?
Blood.
With the arms of a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolation is determined. And he, who's the only he that he's talking about right here in verse 26?
The prince.
The prince, right?
Yeah.
I believe the prince of the covenant right here. We've already determined, he shall confirm the covenant, the prince, with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the
sacrifice and oblation.
So the prince is the false prophet. If I'm reading that wrong, y'all tell me.
No.
I think the prince that shall come with a flood, the arms of a flood, the prince of the covenant, who's going to confirm the covenant for 1 week, right? And the same is the same one who's going to take away and cause the sacrifice to cease.
Yeah.
So what does that tell us when we start? Because we've always applied this to who?
The Antichrist.
So let's read on a little bit more, and I think this is it. And I'll close with this. He says, both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table. But it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he, I'm going to say this is the false prophet, but I'll show you. Then he shall return unto his land. Now, you know where I think his land is. I think it's from America, right?
Right.
He's going to return to his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the what?
Holy covenant.
See, he confirmed the Holy Covenant with think about it, they're in the land now.
Yep.
And he's going to confirm the covenant. Because remember, after the 6th seal, you got the 7th seal. There's going to be a little bit of space between the 6th seal and the first trumpet. Because it's during the 7th seal that they're handed the trumpets. They're preparing themselves to sound. So the Jews, your people, will be back in the land. And I believe he's going to confirm the covenant. But then he's going to return to his land, and his heart is going to be against it. And he shall do exploits and return to his own land. And at the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return, and look what it says, and have indignation against
the covenant.
That covenant that he made. So shall he do, he shall even return and have intelligence with them that
forsake the holy covenant.
Quick question about the covenant.
Go ahead.
Why would it be considered a holy covenant?
Okay, because he's confirming something. This is not like a covenant. This is not like
modern
covenant he's making with them.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear it.
Okay.
Say it again.
This is not this is not him making a covenant. It is him confirming the covenant that God had with Abraham.
And who Abraham's seed is.
And with Abraham and his seed, which is Christ. So he's confirming that they are who they say they are. He's confirming who they are and the covenant that God has with them. And it's for 7 years. It doesn't mean that he's got some kind of like peace treaty or something like that.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I think just to be very, very clear, the covenant he is confirming is that the so-called African American is the Israel of God.
And I think that's what he's doing, is that y'all are who y'all said y'all were.
Yeah, because I'm reading a little bit ahead. Well, I've also read this part because I already told you my point of view or what I started looking into. It's not really something I'm sold on, but I'm asking specifically for the part where it says, well, you're going to get there, but have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Yep. So, like, that's why I asked which covenant and why would it be considered the holy covenant? Because, like, if it's with Abraham's seed, that makes a lot of sense. But
remember the sacrifices, all of the law is going to be what appears to be reinstated during this time.
Yeah, but also I'm asking because during that time, to us who believe in what Christ has done, the sacrifice part is irrelevant to us. Yeah, it's irrelevant to us.
I know we say it's irrelevant, but somehow Jesus is going to be there, we're going to be there, and sacrifices are going to start. Now, I don't know exactly what that means or why.
And it doesn't mean that they're where does it say they're sacrificing for their sins?
I mean more specifically for the ones who don't believe that when they sacrifice it, it's actually atoning for their sins still? Because there are some people, even in the Hebrew Israelite community, that believe that they're sacrificing for their sins still. So that's why I'm asking. It's more just to get that thought outside. So in case
Yeah,
someone hears it.
And here's what I would say: you have to. Time frame is going to be important. I can't tell you why they're going to be sacrificing animals. I don't know. I know that there's going to be, well, let's think about it. The false prophets confirming the covenant with them, right?
Yep.
Who's running the country? I mean, maybe it's because we know that, he's going to gather his wheat into barn, into his floor, but he also knows he's going to purge it with fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there may be those Jews in the land, and then there's always been Jews that they were in the wilderness. Most of them didn't get in.
And those other guys that appertain to him, where the earth opened up her mouth.
Yeah, with Korah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And so there's always been people like that. So maybe it's they're doing it, and you probably got the ones that understand, and they're witnessing. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about them in a minute, right?
Okay.
So let's finish this part, and then we'll open it up, and maybe we can figure out some of these things. He says, so I think he's talking about the holy covenant that God has with Abraham and Christ. And he's going to confirm, the false prophet's going to confirm it with them for 7 years. But as soon as he returns to his land, his heart's going to be against it, right? And he's going to have indignation against it. And then he's going to have, probably somewhere in a room somewhere, hiding in secret, he's going to have intelligence with them that forsake it. And then something's going to happen. Arms are going to stand on his part. I think he says it in Luke. He says, when you shall see Jerusalem encompassed with armies, know that the desolation is near. Now, we know that and he also tells them that when you see the abomination of desolation, don't come down in your house, don't come in from your field, get out of Jerusalem, right?
Yeah.
And so I believe what's going to happen, I believe literally arms, or how's he say up here? A flood, or the arms of a flood, right?
Yeah.
That they're going to come against Jerusalem, because halfway through there, think about it, halfway through there, the devil's going to be cast out, and the beast that was and is not, that was dead, he's going to be raised up. And now you're going to have the beast, and you're going to have the false prophet. And guess what? When they take Jerusalem, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pollute the sanctuary. And guess what he's going to do?
Take away the daily sacrifice.
You know who it is now. And they're going to place the what?
Abomination.
That same arm, would you relate that to the flood, the arms of the flood? Would you relate that same arms of the flood to the flood that comes out of the dragon's mouth?
I think he's going to use military strength. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What you mean when they go out into the wilderness and he pours out a flood?
And then the dragon spews out water like a flood.
I think so. I think so, because the dragon's not a real dragon, is he?
No.
So when he pours out something, I think I want to be careful that I don't do a private interpretation, but I don't think he's going to be pouring out water in the wilderness to try to destroy him, because he's trying to destroy a woman who's not really a woman, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That is actually Israel, the people. So basically what I think is going to happen is, I think let's walk through this, okay? From the first kingdom rises up. I believe they're in power. Second kingdom, Iran, Media Persia, destroys Jerusalem. Then the third kingdom, America, I believe, goes and tries to basically destroy them. And then America eventually breaks into four, and out of one of them comes the false prophet. I believe America basically hands over the power to the fourth kingdom, the Antichrist. Before he's possessed, he's only going to have a rule over a fourth part of the earth. And then I believe that he rises up, and then those 10 kings are going to rise, and then they're going to give their power and strength unto him.
Okay.
And then after them, those 10, I believe that the false prophet who comes from the third kingdom is going to rise up, and there's going to be problems in that kingdom, and he's going to get rid of 3 of those kings. And then I believe, because Israel is going back to the land in the 6th seal, and they take the land, and I'll show you hopefully next week that that you're going to see a bunch of countries that are going to try to come up and destroy Israel when they get into the land because they don't have walls. And it's the same time, this is the 7th seal, and they're going to try to, they're going to go ahead and build a temple. And when all that happens, when Israel turns away this great army and destroys them, and when they see that temple being rebuilt, I think this is when the false prophet confirms the covenant.
So now that I'm glad you stopped at that point, because you said a little bit earlier you believe that he will be a Hebrew.
Yeah.
And my question is, being that, at what point do you think between the come out of her, my people, lest you take part of her destruction, speaking of the whore, between that point and the point where this covenant would be made, like, where do you think that would fit in that timeline?
You mean from coming out of her?
Yeah, because they're not there. So would the Hebrew have gone with them?
So here's what I think. And I don't, maybe if this don't answer your question, you tell me. So he confirms this 7 year, he confirms the Holy Covenant for 7 years. And then of course he has indignation. He takes, because they think about it, we know right here, because when you place the abomination that make up desolate, that's the Antichrist sitting in the temple. Yes. So we know that he's already been raised from the dead, right? And so when they see that, they're told, get out. Now, I think what's going to happen is, he said, pray that, you're not, basically you're not giving suck, and that you're not, that it's not on the Sabbath. But I think there's going to be some people who don't do that. There are going to be some Hebrews that get stuck in Jerusalem. Some of them may perish by the sword. Some of them may be enslaved again, or whatever reason. So there's going to be some people. A lot of them will get to go out into the wilderness where they'll be nourished for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
But some of them will be stuck in Jerusalem. And I believe when you get toward the end, right? When you get toward the end, right before the Lord comes back, that's when he's telling you, you better get out. Because we know this. At the 7th trump, something happens. The temple in heaven is open. And then the 7 angels with the 7 plagues or the 7 vials comes out. And they're going to pour it out upon Jerusalem, this area, this city, right? And therefore they're being warned before he does that. Just like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? He told Lot and his family, you better get out, because guess what? I'm getting ready to destroy this city. And I think he's telling the Israelites, any Israelite that's left in Jerusalem or Babylon, I'm getting ready to pour out these 7 vials. So guess what? That's when I think that happens. Is he's telling them in the end, get out.
See, part of my question was, I actually understood, but it was still a little bit of the America being that's why I still was kind of thinking about the America being Babylon versus the Jerusalem view. And so it makes sense. I honestly wasn't really thinking about that part. That's why I asked, at what point would it be, because they would have to leave to go there. And I was thinking you were saying, no, I'm not considering that anymore. But when I asked the question, I was asking it as if it was America versus the other.
Oh,
So
okay.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and does that mean I'm right? I say study. If go back, listen to the video, study. If you see where I'm in error, that's. I mean, I don't need everybody sitting around telling me I'm right all the time. I need people telling me, yeah, I don't know, because this, that's what I need. I need people saying, no, what about this verse and what about that verse?
Oh,
Now,
definitely. I'm writing my notes. I'm gonna critique some of the stuff and come back and ask you. But
okay.
it's just like I wanted to ask from this point of view, with everything that you've put together,
Yeah.
how it would make sense. But I was mixing the two because I've heard one so long, so that's
Yeah.
why I asked. But I get it.
And so listen, here's what I would tell you. I would tell you, no, I think I've proven that the little horn is the false prophet. I think I've proven that it comes out of the third kingdom, out of one of those four that break up. I think I've proven that he is the one that takes away the daily sacrifice, right? I think I've proven that he is the one that confirms that 7 years, that covenant God has with Abraham and Christ. And then when you get down here, he calls him a vile person. He calls him the prince of the covenant. And then down here, he says that he's going to have, his heart's going to be against it. He's going to have indignation. He's going to have intelligence within that forsake it. And then just to let you know that it's him, arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength and shall take away what?
Sacrifice.
The daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination, which is the Antichrist. They shall place the abomination that maketh desolate.
Yeah.
And then it goes on. He says, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. And we already know how he works, by flatteries and by peace. And but look what he said. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall. So there's going to be Hebrews in Israel. So all of them aren't going to be obedient.
Yeah.
They're going to go through a fire.
It also makes sense with the fact that why he would receive the worship, why some people would be swayed to worship him by the false prophet, because it does tell you that Christ confirmed a covenant already. But that's why when I asked you what I asked you, I thought it was talking about the same thing. But the people that don't believe are going to believe that's the confirmation, because some people don't even believe he came the first time.
No, they don't. I met some this week after last week's Bible study.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And so anyway, we know the ones that do exploits and the ones that instruct many, right? And these are talking about Hebrews in the land. They're going to fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil many days. And now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding are going to fall, to try them, to purge them, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king, talking about the false prophet, shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Now, here's why I say he's a Hebrew. Neither shall he regard who?
The God of his fathers.
God of his fathers.
Nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things.
I agree.
Thus shall he do the most in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. To the point, I believe, he creates an image of him. Mm-hmm. And he shall cause them to rule over many and shall divide the land for gain. So I'll shut this off and we can talk about it. I just want you to understand all those symbols, the words are spiritually, the God's words have spirit, and they're spiritually connected. So you don't have to guess what the 7 heads are. You don't have to guess what the 10 horns are.
Right.
Once you see the beast rises, and then the kings, and then another little horn, you know it's not the Antichrist, because the Antichrist rised here, and then the kings rise, and it says the same thing in Revelation, the first beast, and then the last beast. And so I think the false prophet is almost talked about more than the Antichrist.
It does appear to be that way.
And isn't that weird? Because we used to think that the 7th trump was the most prophesied event.
Yeah.
The second coming of Christ, when the reality is the 6th seal. And it just seems like when you start studying your Bible on your own and quit paying attention to all those things, that God begins to start to. The false prophet's an evil man.
Yes,
he's a Hebrew. At least I think he's a Hebrew. What do you think?
I believe so. I mean, the part where he won't have a regard for the God of his forefathers, that part right there tells you, and it doesn't put it as a little g. So
Right.
It's telling you he's talking about. But one thing that I did find interesting that you didn't really go over was the part where after it talks about the confirming the covenant, and it says the abomination, like that, it causes the abomination that causes desolation. It mentions a part specifically that says until the consummation, and that's normally when a man and woman come together, like during marriage, right?
Yeah.
So in what context does that fit into the whole thing?
Well, I think if you look at the first part of the 70 weeks, what does he say? 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. In other words, 490 years are determined upon the people. That's the Hebrews. And upon the holy city. That's Jerusalem. To do some things. To finish the transgression. That's the one thing. To make an end of sins. That's 2. To make reconciliation for iniquity. That's 3. To bring in everlasting righteousness. 4. To seal up the vision and prophecy. 5. And to anoint the most holy. And so when he sits down there and he says that even till the consummation, I think that's what he's talking about. I think, could be wrong. I think the consummation of all.
Just the point where he's anointed and
everything's done.
It's all done. Okay.
I'm not saying that's right. What do you think, Louis?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I never noticed that. I mean, I've read it before, but that consummation there, and that's like, okay, so that adds a little color to what's happening.
So sometimes what helps me is actually look up, like I'll go over to Webster's, and I'll actually type it in and see if it gives any color to that word, because sometimes I know what it means, but sometimes there's definitions about it. Consummation means completion, end.
Yeah. Consume, right? End altogether.
Yeah.
Determine riddance.
And so when I read that first part of the 70 weeks and all those things, that list he gives, that's the consummation to me. That's when this is what I believe. I believe at the 7th trump, the 70 weeks are done. That 70 weeks that are being the punishment, right? That are y'all being poured out upon y'all. I also believe at the 70 weeks that the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. In other words, while he's punishing y'all, he's showing grace and mercy to who?
The Gentiles.
To the Gentiles. But when the punishment is over with, the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. The mystery of God, the mystery of the Gentiles is fulfilled. And so then when because he's allowing, think about all the horrible things that have happened to your people. God sat by and watched it happen, allowed it to happen. But when that 70 weeks is up, you think when your child comes out of the room for punishment and some stranger says, "No, I'm going to punish them more," what are you going to say? No, that's not your child. That's my child.
Yeah. Well, if he
say it. Yeah.
So So I get the consummation. This is another thing. What is the desolation? Because the abomination causes desolation, but isn't it at that point where the judgment falls and it causes the desolation? Or is the desolation, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, because the abomination, I get who causes that. I get who's doing the abomination. But wouldn't
Mm.
that bring upon the wrath at the point where he's sitting in the temple proclaiming himself to be God? Is it at the point where wrath falls, and wouldn't that make it desolate?
Mhm.
Let's see if I understand what you're saying.
I'll
You
read
got
it to
any?
you real quick just to kind of put
Okay.
it into better
Yeah.
perspective. When it talks about, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. So what's the overspreading of abomination is what what the false prophet antichrist does, right? The overspreading of abomination.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm not sure. It could be because I believe the Hebrews, I believe particularly Zerubbabel and them, when they go back during the seventh seal before the seventh, rebuild the temple.
Yeah.
And you got God's people in the land. And you start reading about that time before the 7 years starts. Because you think about it, I'm saying that Jerusalem lays desolate for a long time. Now they go back to a land, and he talks about it in Ezekiel. They're going back to a land that was desolate, and now it's, now it's like fertile farmland, and you got
Yeah.
cattle, and all of a sudden the Lord's blessing this land because the Hebrews are back. One of my thoughts is this, because the abomination of desolation is when he goes into the temple and sits in the temple thinking he's God, claiming that he's God. But up until then, was that temple desolate?
As far as we know,
I
it
mean,
was not.
As far as we know, it's not, right? So it could be just the fact that um, sometimes, like in the Old Testament, God would be present in his temple, but when they would come in and they would defile it, he would leave.
yeah.
And so it could be just that.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure.
So this is
It
exactly why I'm
could
asking.
be.
I'll tell you why
Yeah,
I'm asking. It's
yeah.
because one, it's like I said, I'm gonna throw things just to look at different point of view.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
But
Yeah.
remember what I took, the point of view I brought up. This is why I think it would kind of make sense that it's talking about two people, because if one does the abomination, that's when who actually destroys it. Like every other time the temple was destroyed is because God allowed it to be destroyed. But this temple is not necessarily him like it's not built for him, right? Technically, it's not like in Solomon's temple. It was built in dedication to him. This temple, maybe they might be building it with the thought of it, but they're gonna put someone else in the place. So I'm asking because it mentions the desolate part in two separate places. Verse
Yeah.
26, when it talks about, actually three different places. In verse 26, it says, "Until the end of the war, desolations are determined." That's the first one. But the second one, it says, "The abomination, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." So that's why I'm asking, because it's being poured upon the desolate, but something he does shall make it desolate. So that's why I'm asking. Is it
Well, the
like,
thing,
is it desolate because the people fled? Is it desolate because it was destroyed? Is it desolate because,
so you want to know what the okay? So how about
yeah,
look at Daniel 11:31,
okay.
and he says, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. So it sounds to me what he's saying is when they place the abomination, in other words, this son of perdition in the temple, that makes it desolate. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, but I'm not.
Yeah, and this is why I'm asking, because I just want to clear it up or have other thinkers chew upon it, because the abomination that make it desolate is also a thing, but I'm saying is the desolation because the presence of God was there and it left, or because the people recognize the sign and they flee?
Okay.
I think
I don't know whether I'm going to include this.
That placing of the Antichrist is what makes it desolate.
Yeah. So would it be desolate because the presence of God was in there, and now it's desolate of because he's in there? It's not desolate of people. Somebody's there, but what is the desolate? Like, that's what I'm really asking. Like,
Because
what is the
it was
desolation?
converted from a place. I think the temple is built. I mean, it's just conjecture at this point, but I think the temple is built in honor of the Most High. And
Because Zerubbabel's the one that's doing it.
And I think all the sacrifices that are being made are being sacrificed in His name, right? And so because the false prophet hates the covenant or hates us so much and what we're doing and our manner of worship, he says, hey, listen, let's put an end to this thing. And that's you.
Yeah.
You're now God. You're God. Come on in here and take your rightful place in the center of all of this worship. And
Okay.
I think
Can I almost say something to you?
Go ahead.
You know me, Lewis, because we talked about this Saturday. Is I'll have thoughts and I'll run them by you, stuff the Lord's kind of like showing me, and I'm trying to like determine whether it's something I should pursue or not pursue. And well, here's one thing that I know in part, but I'm not sure, because we talk about the Lord appears at 3 different feasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he appeared at the Feast of Unleavened Bread when he was offered as the lamb, the sacrifice. He's going to come back at the end of that 49 years and raise up the army, take the land, and that's the Feast of Weeks. And he appears 3 times, right?
Right.
And it says that the 144,000 follow him wherever he goes. So we know when he raises them up, he goes in, he takes the land back. But at some point at the 7th trump, he's coming out of heaven.
Yep.
And the army's following him.
Yep.
Which means at some point, he what?
He
left.
Yep.
And went to heaven.
Yep.
Now, I've not really studied a lot. I'm going to try and figure out when he actually, because he's going to be amongst his people. He's going to take the 144,000 down there, right? And then he's going to the 2 kingdoms, the northern and southern kingdom, are going to come back to the land, but it doesn't really say when he leaves.
No.
Right now, possibly he's dwelling there, and maybe the rest of the world can't see him. Maybe only the Hebrews can see him. I don't know, and maybe when he leaves, he takes.
The 144,000
goes, and the 144,000 go with him, and I just know that wherever he goes, they go.
Yeah.
And if he's coming back at the 7th trump, that meant that sometime between the 6th seal when he came, he went back.
Yep.
And it makes sense because if you start studying 3 times, right? You see it all the time. Like he went to pray in the Garden of Gethsemane. How many times?
3.
3 times, right? Went, and then he comes back, and they're sleeping, and then it comes. I mean, there's a lot of pictures in there of 3 times.
Yeah.
And so, when does he leave? Why does he leave? And it could be what you're saying. It could be that maybe they're bringing the sacrifices to the temple not because they're trying to make sacrifices for sins, but maybe they're making sacrifices to bring to their king. Maybe he's there in the temple. And maybe when they place the abomination that maketh desolate, he goes. And listen, that's all conjecture.
I'm just saying this, like I do that's a great perspective, and this is why I'm saying it. One, to put it that way, they got to be super bold to have to have the king right there, and you decide to come in the temple with your own stuff.
Yep.
I think that's a super bold move. But
Well,
I
here's what I
go
say.
ahead.
That's they might not know he's there. That might be just something between him and his people.
No, I mean, it would have to. Oh, I get what you mean, because I mean, when you're saying his people, I mean everybody, not just the ones that believe. But so I get what you're saying with that. But this is why I'm asking, because until they acknowledge who God is, at what point does this is why I'm asking, because at what point would that have to happen in order for that to be true? Because he said he will not come until they say, "Blessed is he who comes." Like, because at the triumphal entry, that's what he said to them. He said he won't come back until they're
Say,
calling for him, basically.
yep.
And
Well,
when in Amos 5, when it talks about basically, I'll just read this part. It says, um, starting at verse 20, it says, "Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? I hate and despise your feast days. I will not smell your solemn assemblies. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols." And that's why I'm asking, because he's not accepting that stuff. It seems like until the day of the Lord happens, based on
yeah.
this. So it's like, is if the day of the Lord is when he come back with the armies to fight, basically. That's why I'm saying it seems kind of like,
Hey,
it's like, I don't know. It would have to be like, maybe you have something you could show me that says otherwise, but based on that, and then the fact that he's not gonna come until they say, "Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord." It just, that whole him being there, I don't think that's it. Just don't seem like it's the desolation to me. But
You mean
we
just
can,
because the Antichrist is there, it doesn't seem like.
well, because at that point, if all of Israel is believing, which at that point they clearly wouldn't be because they're doing that in the first place, then it can't be that he came, because he said when he would come and what the requirement would be. It would be for them to acknowledge and like call for him. The 144,000, I don't believe they're going to be the same group, because if that's the case, he would come for the 144,000.
I, I do see when he comes at the seventh trump, not the sixth seal,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
everything's over with. Um, it says that the armies of the world surround them in the valley,
yeah,
and when heaven opens and he appears, it says the tribes of the earth are mourning. It's like they've got to the point where they're crying out to him,
yeah,
and I think that's when he comes. Blessed is it, when he comes in the name of the Lord back, is
yeah,
probably the seventh trump, because we know at the sixth seal when they come back, he says they're going to a furnace in Jerusalem. I mean,
yeah,
it's not going to be. Then they're going to end up being in the wilderness for 3.5 years. It's not. That's part of the 70 weeks. That's part of the punishment almost. So I can't imagine it until the 70 weeks are over at the seventh trump. I can't imagine all of Israel saying, "Come, thank you, the Lord's here," because it
yeah.
says he says even those that pierced him.
We're
How
gonna
does it say that? How's that verse
We'll
go?
see him.
Yeah, they'll
Those,
see
even
him.
those that pierced him, will see him.
Yeah, and so I think even those I think you kind of almost see a picture of that with in the Old Testament with Jacob and Esau. Remember when Jacob was gone for 20 years,
Yeah,
and then
and
they
he
came
saw him
back
coming.
and they fell on each other's cried, fell on each other's shoulder and cried, even though. But I mean,
Yeah.
study, man. You got to give me some answers, Ruben. You got to start
And that's
studying,
the
man.
thing. This is why I'm saying, like, because I have studied some things, and it's like even what I've studied, it would fit in the timeline presented. But
Yeah,
those small places, that's why I'm asking. Like, the desolation would have to be properly defined. Like, it's just the smaller details, because even the consummation, I agree that the consummation is like at the end, the marriage supper of the Lamb. All these
yeah.
things happen after those things, and I would agree.
I would
So
say this. I would say this. I would say that go every place in the Bible where he talks about either the daily sacrifice, because the daily sacrifice and the abomination are two parts in one thing. In other words, when one happens, the other one happens. So I would go everywhere he talks about the abomination, the desolation, or the taking away of the daily sacrifice, and just put all those verses right in front of me and just read through them and read through them and read through, because there's details in there that the Lord will show you, but you need to put all those verses together.
remember what I told you. This probably gonna be the last thing. It's almost time for family prayer, but um, remember what I told you when we spoke, who I believe might be that man of sin.
Yeah,
And remember, you said you believe he'll be a Hebrew. Technically, he would be. That's why I
yeah,
believe we'll talk about it, Lewis,
All right.
another time.
yeah.
But
I don't think
he's a
he's going to be.
Hebrew, but
He's old though. I don't know if he'll make it that far, but you never know. But you know how many
man,
men like that come along?
Moses was 80 years old. But I'm just saying, but no, I think it's gonna have, like, I honestly don't think it's gonna be a young, energetic dude that people just want to follow. I don't think so. I think it's gonna be some, because
Well, think
remember, he
about it.
continues.
Part of his characteristics is to speak flatteringly. We think
Hmm.
Yeah,
flattering is a good thing, but flattering is not. It's lying. So he's using
Yeah,
deceitful words to move things along, to get his way, to stay in control. This is
yeah, he
young
cheating to
folks
win.
don't think like that. This is going to be someone who's been around the way.
Experienced.
Some yeah,
oh yeah.
exactly.
And to go
He's not
off
going
your
to.
teaching today, when you talked about the seven kings, the eighth is going to be one that was already there, and that's kind of what I was telling you the other day. I believe it's going to be somebody that already, like it says it, he's going to have power to an extent, and then
Oh,
he's
he's
going
going to
to
have a lot of
gain.
power. Just
Yeah,
same
he's
way
going to
that
gain
the
more when
Antichrist
he
power.
becomes the eighth. Yeah,
Well, he
You
ain't
know,
the eighth. The eighth is the Antichrist.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The dude I'm talking about is who I believe the Antichrist.
Oh, who the Antichrist is?
I don't see Hebrews following a white guy. That's what I told him. I said I just don't see it. If like the radicals right
See,
now
that's what's
marching,
yeah. Well, the thing is that the Hebrew in question is actually going to be the false prophet,
yeah,
right? And so I think the Antichrist. We don't really know who the Antichrist. At least his complexion, at least. It would not be far fetched if he was European.
yeah, I agree. But
yeah.
no, it's either he's gonna be one or the other. But I'm just
Smooth
saying
talker.
I kind of nobody
That's
taught politician wise, nobody outsmooth my boy. I mean not my boy, but
I understand what you mean. But there's another guy who's come along who's young, who is very
Macron,
charismatic like him, but
Emmanuel.
he's his political affiliation is Republican, which is very interesting. The
Oh, I
Indian
know who you're
fellow.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See, and this is another thing, but this is why I'm saying, because if the seven kings are talking about the Antichrist, that part,
Right.
he would have to be at a position of a seven kings and then become the eighth. And it could happen, but that's why I feel like it'll, because I just seen the way people worship this guy. Like they called him Christ. They put his face on statues of what was supposed to be Jesus. They made murals. Like, if anybody was to deceive us, it'll be him. Out of all the people currently, I think he would be the dude, but it's not. I'm just speculating. It's
Yeah,
nothing.
no.
I'm
It's
like,
all conjecture at this point.
I have.
yeah, because
If I gave you what I used to think about the Antichrist, and I hadn't told you everything I told you tonight, I could
yeah.
convince you who the Antichrist was. I
Well,
mean,
Hitler,
no, John Paul II.
Trump.
John Paul
Oh yeah,
too,
yeah, yeah.
because he fit
Is
all of
he?
the
He
characteristics.
fits the description.
Yeah.
And
See,
the
this is the
problem,
thing.
yeah,
The only reason I don't think it'll be a pope specific, well, it could be honestly, but I don't think it would be a pope is because I kind of feel like the pope would fit more of the false prophet role more than anything because of the amount of power he has, the amount of influence he has over
but he's not a
the
Hebrew.
like Christian. I
Yeah.
know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is what I'm saying. People believe he is, but I don't think people might believe like they believe King Charles is related to King David. Like, I don't know if you ever heard that, but
I
some
have not
people,
heard that one. That's new for me.
you know,
That's new.
no, I promise you, go look up his coronation. The stone that he was sitting above, they said that's the same stone that King David had. The crown that he's wearing, they believe is Solomon's crown. They believe that bloodline is direct descendants of King David. Like
That's
it's
madly diluted.
it's a real thing. It's not just a conspiracy. They actually believe that they're
Oh, I
directly
don't
from
doubt
that
it.
Wait,
blood.
I gotta bounce,
wasn't there a
y'all.
King David? Wasn't
I,
there a King David in the Khazarian?
what about David?
Wasn't there a King David in the Khazarian Empire?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, maybe that King David.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
they 100% believe like they're direct descendants. Some of them believe, like I don't know if you've heard it, but they believe that
Later
Christ
was.
had children. All right, man, have a great one. They believe
Yeah.
Christ had children, and his descendants are the royalty. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
that's why the Da Vinci Code and everything, that whole thing came out. They actually
that's
believe that.
if you want to believe a lie, you know what God will do?
Give you
He'll
up to
do
the
what he
base
did to King
mind.
Ahab. He'll say, "Okay, listen, I need me a
A lion
spirit to just
spirit.
speak in the mouth of the prophets
Hmm.
and persuade King Ahab to go up to Ramoth Gilead and perish." And so
Yep.
God will actually put it in his own prophet's mouth, a lying spirit. Because if you want to lie, that's what he'll give you. Well, hey, I know you got to go too. So,
Yeah. But hey, I could talk about Bible all day, man. It's food,
uh,
man. But
if
yeah.
you feel like the need, you want to talk, just let me know, and I'll make time for you.
Oh,
So,
don't worry. I'm gonna make some. I'm gonna write a list of questions that I have based on tonight, and
okay,
I'll run it by you. We'll chop it up. Y'all have a
all
great one.
right,
Be
man.
blessed.
All right, guys.
All right.
You too. All right.